There are a lot of iconic vehicles in superhero history. The Spider Buggy, Ghost Rider's Hell Cycle, Wonder Woman's Invisible Jet, but none of them carry the same mythic weight, the same theatrical presence, the same sense of engineered fear as the Batmobile. Across TV series, animated classics, and blockbuster films, every Batmobile has functioned as a statement about Batman himself. It is part armor, part weapon, part psychological warfare. So, today we journey from the earliest television appearances to the modern cinematic reinventions and break down every Batmobile. The 1966 Batmobile, the TV icon. The first Batmobile that truly entered pop culture consciousness appeared in the 1966 Batman television series, starring Adam West. Built from a modified 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car, it looked like a futuristic roadster dipped in jet black, trimmed with red pinstripes and crowned with a massive atomic turbine intake. This car did not whisper intimidation. It represented an era where Batman wasn't brooding in the shadows. Over-the-top gadgets, giant fins, a bubble canopy, emergency parachutes, and labeled buttons so exaggerated they bordered on parody. Yet the effect was undeniable. This version of the Batmobile became a symbol of the era, campy, playful, and unashamed of its theatricality. It was not meant for stealth, it was made for spectacle. And for that moment in Batman's history, spectacle was exactly the point. The 1989 Batmobile. The Gothic Rocket. When Tim Burton reinvented Batman for the 1989 film, the Batmobile underwent one of the most dramatic tonal shifts in superhero design. Gone was the cheerful Futura silhouette. What replaced it was a Gothic predator stretched across the pavement. It combined the curves of an Art Deco supercar with the menace of a fighter jet, finished in matte black armor that seemed to absorb light. The jet engine running through the center emphasized acceleration as a weapon. Retractable shields allowed it to cocoon into a rolling fortress. Grapples, machine guns, and the iconic slide-open cockpit created a sense that Batman didn't just drive this machine, he merged with it. Burton's Batman was a haunted figure shaped by trauma, and the Batmobile reflected that psychological architecture. The 1992 Batmobile. The evolution. The sequel, Batman Returns, refined the 1989 design rather than reinventing it. The overall silhouette remained, but the changes were meaningful. We got sleeker bodywork, intentional paneling, upgraded weaponry, and a more aggressive engine profile. Most famously, the car introduced the shield-shedding escape transformation, splitting into a narrow Bat missile mode to navigate tight spaces. This feature communicated something specific about this era of Batman. He was more hunted than ever, cornered by corruption, politics, and vigilante paranoia. The Batmobile needed its own escape plan, just like Bruce Wayne. The Batman Forever Batmobile. The Neon Glyph. 1995 brought a dramatic tonal pivot when Joel Schumacher took over the franchise. The Batman Forever Batmobile embodied that shift with unapologetic flamboyance. The glowing blue lines, ribbed exterior, oversized fin, and exposed wheel arches created a design that felt pulled from a comic panel rather than an industrial workshop. Even the giant fin that folded upward and the ability to drive up walls spoke to a Batman who embraced spectacle as a strategic tool. Schumacher's Bruce Wayne lived in a world defined by exaggerated villains and chaotic personalities, and the Batmobile reflected this theatrical battlefield. It was not grounded or stealthy. The Batman and Robin Batmobile. The operatic monolith. When Batman and Robin arrived, the Batmobile scaled the theatricality even further. The elongated nose, massive exposed engine, spinning lights, and glowing internal components made the vehicle feel almost operatic. It echoed hot rods and carnival machinery, a deliberate push into hyper-stylization. This Batman operated in a world where logic played second fiddle to personality, and the Batmobile functioned as an extension of that illustrated universe. It was large, loud, and dramatic in a way that fit the film's exaggerated tone. The animated series Batmobile. The Shadow. Although not live action, the early 1990s, Batman the Animated Series Batmobile deserves mention because its design influenced almost every adaptation that followed. This car was long, low, and angular, with an engine tone that felt like a whispering thunderstorm. It represented pure noir, a slow, deliberate presence gliding across Gotham's Art Deco alleyways. The car had an understated menace that fit Bruce Timm's interpretation of Batman as a creature of the shadows. No neon lines, no massive wings, no unnecessary ornamentation. It was a sculpted silhouette with wheels, a machine defined by restraint. The animated Batmobile showed that intimidation could be elegant. It set a design philosophy that modern directors would revisit decades later. The Tumbler. The military evolution. Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins demolished every expectation established by previous designs. Instead of a sleek Gothic shape or a theatrical neon cruiser, we got the Tumbler, a tank disguised as a car, or perhaps a car disguised as a tank. It was a military prototype for bridging gaps on battlefields, repurposed into Batman's urban warfare vehicle. This design said something profound about Nolan's Bruce Wayne. He was not concerned with symbolism or aesthetics. He needed functionality, survivability, and brute force engineering. The Tumbler could leap across rooftops, withstand direct gunfire, smash through barricades, and deliver fear through sheer kinetic impact. Batman was no longer a Gothic figure haunting alleys. He was a tactical assault unit responding with overwhelming capability. The Tumbler redefined what a Batmobile could be. It introduced narrative logic into the design. The Dark Knight Tumbler. The evolved machine. In The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, the Tumbler's role expanded into a fleet, each camouflage variant serving specific tactical functions. The transformation into the Batpod after the Tumbler's destruction created a symbolic moment. Batman's war had escalated beyond the point where a single vehicle could support him. The Tumbler's design expressed the increasing militarization of Gotham's conflict. Joker's unpredictability and Bane's orchestrated siege demanded adaptability, redundancy, and escalation. The Tumbler looked less like a one-of-a-kind hero vehicle and more like a machine built for extended occupation. This reflected how Batman's mission had evolved. He was no longer a lone Dark Knight. He had become a strategic force operating in a collapsing city. The Snyder Batmobile. The War Machine. Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman introduced a Bruce Wayne shaped by decades of exhaustion, loss, and paranoia. His Batmobile reflected this hardened worldview. It blended elements from the Burton era, the Arkham games, and military vehicles. The silhouette carried the signature low stance and pointed nose of earlier designs, but the armor plating and heavy weaponry told a different story. This Batmobile was built for offense. Rapid-fire cannons, missile launchers, and reinforced shielding transformed it from pursuit vehicle to battlefield predator. Snyder's Batman did not stalk criminals. He hunted them with overwhelming aggression. The car's brutal design philosophy mirrored that psychological state. This was not a symbol of justice. The Justice League Batmobile. The upgrades. In Justice League, the Batmobile underwent additional reinforcement to prepare for a threat far beyond Gotham's crime syndicates. Steppenwolf's invasion demanded heavier artillery, greater mobility, and enhanced survivability. The upgraded Batmobile featured mounted cannons, thicker armor plating, and advanced targeting systems. Yet the visual texture remained consistent with the earlier Snyder design. It was still a vehicle built from trauma and necessity. The expansion of weaponry represented Batman pushing himself into a general's role rather than a lone vigilante. He was coordinating with gods, metahumans, and soldiers, and his vehicle needed to match that scale. The 2022 Batmobile. The Street Demon. Matt Reeves delivered another reinvention in The Batman, and perhaps the most grounded interpretation of the Batmobile in decades. This Batmobile was not a military prototype or a futuristic concept car. It was a street-level muscle machine powered by a monstrous engine. The exposed rear turbine, the brutalist frame, and the hand-built bodywork expressed a Batman who was early in his career and driven by raw obsession. His technology had not yet evolved into polished prototypes. His mission had not yet transformed into a global crusade. This car felt personal, handmade, and unrestrained. It echoed American muscle culture and underground racing influences, grounding the character in a more relatable reality. From the Futura-based icon to the roaring 2022 muscle beast, every Batmobile has captured a different layer of the Dark Knight's identity. These cars were never just vehicles. They were symbols, weapons, and emotional blueprints for a man waging a lifelong war on crime. So, that's our full breakdown. Now, I want to hear from you. Which Batmobile stands as the definitive version for you, and which one do you think should influence the next movie adaptation? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive through the history of Gotham's most legendary machine, hit subscribe so you never miss a video. We have plenty more breakdowns on the way. See you in the next one.